All right, y'all, welcome back to the Who is Clarence series. So this episode, I'll just be talking about my military experience. So first and foremost, I have quite a few veterans in my family. My dad was an Air Force veteran. My Uncle Will was a Marine. My Uncle Lonzo was in the Army. My brother Devin was in the Air Force. I was in the Army. My other brother CJ was in the Army. So, it's quite a few of us. So originally, I planned on going to the military straight after high school. I planned on going to the Marines, but I think I already described why that didn't happen in a different episode. So kind of just put the military on the back burner, and then fast forward to my mid 20s, both my younger brother and I were just kind of going through some things and needed a reset. So I had got into real estate. That didn't work out well. I think I explained that too. So really, I had like 4 houses, got hurt at work, was off work, lost everything, and had basically had a family. So I wanted to make sure that I could provide for my ex-wife and our 3 kids. So I went into the military, joined the Army, and went in with my little brother CJ on a buddy system. So that's why I ended up being a cook, because we had to pick the same job. So that's what we agreed on. Went to basic training. That was probably one of the best experiences I had. Probably sound crazy, but it was nice to be able to just see what I could accomplish in a short period of time. So when I actually went into basic training, I was like 243. And by the time I got out, I was 198. So I was just really focused on just getting in shape. But because of that, I don't think I really got to focus as much on learning everything I could about the military. And it was still a good experience. Went to AIT, ended up going to airborne school, but not finishing. Hurt my knee, got a profile, ended up at Fort Drum. For anybody who was in the military, they already know, well, at least the Army, like Fort Drum is one of the places a lot of people don't like to go. But I ended up at Fort Drum, did 5 years. That's in northern New York. So terrible climate, not much to do. And it's a post that deploys a lot. So deployed to Iraq. But overall, my military experience really just taught me the value of consistency and discipline. I don't necessarily feel like the military is something I would recommend for people to do as a career, but I would recommend anybody do the military as a foundation. I think you get great training, both in whatever field you choose and just in life. The principles that I feel like I learned in the military that still benefit me to this day is really just commitment, discipline, and consistency. When you do things all the time and you pay attention to detail, most of the time you get the best results. I remember someone telling me that you can't only be disciplined in great things, and explaining, like it's the little things that come back to bite you. So you can be the best sharpshooter in the world, but if you don't clean your weapon and it jams, it doesn't really matter. So like things like that always stood out to me. And I had a lot of things going on in my personal life, so I don't think that I really maximized my military experience. But what I did do was kind of set the foundation for me to grow as an individual. So going through my personal challenges, relationship challenges, deployment and all of those things, that's where I really got introduced to mental health, and really trying to invest in my mental health, not just physical health. So we had a men's group. I started doing counseling. I've always been active in church. I think I had a really good church home out there, but it really forced me to grow more as a person. And the funny part is, while I was in the military, all the things that I really saw as a requirement are the things that I rely on now, and really are the primary reasons that I have the confidence that I have right now that I will accomplish what I want to, because I saw how much you can do when you are challenged and you push yourself and you commit to something and work consistently at it. So I really don't have any doubts about the outcome of, whatever this YouTube page is going to be, what my life is going to be, my success and all of that, because I have enough information. I have enough experience. As my friend Dennis would say, I have enough wisdom, because it's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. So like, you can know everything, but that's just knowledge. Wisdom comes from experience, and then taking that knowledge and applying it to create the best outcomes. So what stands out about the military for me was just seeing how much impact the small things could have. I mentioned being in the gym 3-4 hours a day. When I was in the military, me and one of my close friends, Mo, like, we lived in a gym. We used to work out and do crazy workouts every day, and then like go play one-on-one basketball for hours. So that was some of the best times, and obviously the best shape that I was in. But really, when we were training and we were out in the field, we used to have push-up competition. So we used to knock out like 50 push-ups like every half hour, and then we started doing it like every 15 minutes. So like doing over 1,000 push-ups a day. And as far as definition and tone and everything, that's really when I saw the biggest difference. And that's why I do push-ups now, because as much as I bench press, and I maxed out at like 340 when I was in the Army. I never tried more than that, but I know I hit 340 on the bench. But like, just doing push-ups consistently, like, my chest was crazy just from doing that. And I'll build back up to that now. Aside from that, I think it really just taught me preparation, especially preparation for opportunities. So, like, I always wanted to be in a leadership position, but you have to work up to that. So I was always taught that you don't really control when you get opportunity, you just control being ready for it. So like, during my deployment in Iraq, I studied, I worked out, I did everything so that when I went to my NCO board, I would be ready. And I got the opportunity, even though I was told that I wasn't. So I got set up for failure. And it was an eye-opening experience. So my platoon sergeant told my staff sergeant to not recommend me to go to the board. Now I noticed, because me and my staff sergeant were super cool, it's still somebody I consider a friend. And like, he showed me the emails of my platoon sergeant telling him he couldn't recommend me for the board, and to write me a counseling statement that, he wasn't recommending me for the board. So he did it, and I understood. And then like a week later, my platoon sergeant came on a convoy, so like a resupply, because I was out on the little JCOB. And I know a lot of people don't know what that means, but just basically I was out on the little tiny post with just like one unit. So it was only like 100 of us, versus being on a huge base where it's thousands of soldiers and buildings. Like, it was very, very small. We had porta-johns and stuff like that. It wasn't really a super solid structure. As a cook, we had to make sure, breakfast was ready at 5 a.m. So we had to be up getting everything ready by 3. Most convoys was at night, so we had to make sure everything was ready pretty much 24/7. And then we also were responsible for the ECP, so that stands for Entry Control Point. So a lot of nights, we would rotate shifts, basically sitting in a gunner's turret on a Humvee at the entry point of our little post, and basically pull guard duty all night. And then, we were supposed to have KPs, so that stands for kitchen personnel. So we were supposed to have soldiers that would come help us, like do dishes, refuel the freezers, and get stuff like that. We didn't have that, so we had to do everything ourselves, which, I mean, that's the military. Like, whatever your job is, you're a soldier first. So we did that, and it wasn't a bad experience, but it was just crazy to me that my platoon sergeant literally tried to set me up for failure. So she told my staff sergeant not to recommend me for the board. And then right before we were coming back from deployment, so like a week after I got this counseling statement, which was disappointing, saying that I wasn't ready to go to my promotion board, they came on a convoy, and she basically told me to get my stuff because I'm going to the board. So, but I was ready, so I went to the board, and I actually did really well once I got my composure. So the first time I went in, when my command sergeant major saluted me, like, I saluted, but like I didn't lower my salute. I was just kind of like, froze. So he like kicked me out, told me to start over, came back in. But once I went back in and composed myself, so it's a bunch of first sergeants and a sergeant major, and they all ask you a bunch of questions, and I literally answered every question right. And like when I got done, my sergeant major literally asked me, like, why the fuck are you a cook? And told me if I stayed in the military, I should become a warrant officer, because he was impressed. He was like, it's the best board he's been at. So obviously I had a sense of accomplishment because of that. But just the situation in itself was crazy, because I felt like, why would somebody do that? And there's a lot of other stuff about the military that I didn't like, but I never really like blamed it on the military. I always felt like it was the people in the military, because I felt like the principles that the military are founded on are wonderful. It's exactly what it needs to be. But the actual application and practice, like, that's up to people. So a lot of times it really comes up short. So I learned that even if it's rules, even if it's regulations and things are supposed to be a certain way, it's still the human element. So you're always going to have to still deal with challenges and overcome obstacles and unfairness, favoritism, stuff like that. In my unit in particular, it was just like, yeah, we're all cooks, and then it's men and women, but it's like the men had to do so much more than the women. So, and I'm not sexist, it's just like that was the reality. Like, they weren't responsible for a lot of things we had to do. So I felt like that was unfair. And even in this, like in the dining facility, like most of the female soldiers in my unit, like, got put on like the salad bar or something. They didn't even have to cook or work in the kitchen. So it was just kind of crazy. But I did my time, I got out, and, I made a lot of good relationships, friends, and I learned a lot. But in my opinion, more importantly, I set myself up for success, even though it was unintentional. I didn't go in with this mindset. I never thought about, my post-military career. I actually planned on doing it for 20, but I only did 5. But once I got out, and I got my disability, then I realized, like, it's way better to be a veteran than it is to be a soldier. And that's why I say I don't remember like everything, but it was a good experience. But I don't recommend like anybody to make it a career, because if you get a military like 20 years of your life, then like I don't feel like it's worth it. But if you do one enlistment and you're a veteran, it's definitely worth it. It's probably one of the best investments you can make in your life. So I use myself for example. I did 5 years and I got out, and I have disability. So sleep apnea, adjustment anxiety disorder, and I get a check on the first of the month every month for the rest of my life. I have medical care. When I had 100% for unemployability, I got dental benefits for my kids' education, and then a bunch of other stuff. It's a program called Vet Tix. I try to share with all vets. I donated tickets to UFC, NFL games, NBA games, all kind of stuff. So that was a big part of, me becoming who I am. Especially, I definitely wouldn't be who I am without my military experience. Because like I said, prior to that, I was really angry, confused, lost. All I had really been exposed to was going from my parents being together, and that was when I was really young. Then them being divorced, living with my mom, feeling like I was super restricted. Then going to my dad, feeling like I really had no guidance or supervision. Moving my grandparents, and kind of just feeling like I'm there. Like I said, my grandfather did really invest more in the dialogue and conversation and teaching and training. But ultimately, I just felt like I was just taught to kind of go along with the status quo, live your life, get a job, pay bills, and like just let time go by. And then in the military, I felt like I really discovered, I'm capable a lot more if I'm put in a situation to challenge myself and push myself to develop the person I am. So, that's my big takeaway from the military. When you're put in challenging situations, then you really see what you're made of. And it showed me that, I'm made of a lot. So I will apply that to everything going forward. And it's benefited me so much. And I'm so grateful for that experience. And it's something that I would truly recommend for anybody who's considering it. But I won't keep rambling on. I'll leave it at that. The military was great. It's a big part of who I am. And it really set the foundation for me to do everything that followed. So until next time, I'll holler at y'all. Peace.